just taking a second. Okay.
Hello and welcome to Spirit Chat. Today is a spooky Halloween version of Spirit Chat. So welcome, come on in. Very excited to have everybody. And we actually have a very special guest, the one of the most famous living and working physical mediums, Kai Muegge, will be joining us in a few minutes. He is in Germany and just running a few minutes late, so he will be joining us in about 10 minutes or so. But welcome. In case people don't know by now, I am Medium Mari, a cat actually, but I'm actually Medium Mari, psychic medium and animal communicator, and I'm so grateful to be here with you tonight. And I'm joined, as always, by my beautiful and lovely co-host, Winter Brook.
Hi, everyone. Um, Thank you for joining us tonight. And yeah, the time changes. I run into this every year because our country does it at one point, and then other countries they do it a couple of weeks later, a couple of weeks earlier. So it can get difficult. But it gives us an opportunity to chat with you guys ourselves because we'll be wanting to hear mostly from Kai when he joins us. And Mari and I wanted to let you guys know that our next show is November 13th, and it will just be her and I. And the focus is going to be pets. That would be pets here and pets on the other side. We will be doing lots of messages, since the holidays will be starting, Thanksgiving, Hanukkah, Christmas. And of course, we'll be doing messages from your deceased loved ones as well. And advice, for those who have questions on their lives. I have one of my little kitty cats in the background. That's I call her my inheritance. I actually fostered her when she had a litter. And my 92-year-old dear friend fell in love with her. And the rescue was so kind that they allowed her to adopt the cat. I had to co-sign the adoption, of course, because, she was 92. And 2 weeks after she got her, poor Helen transitioned to spirit. So the cat came back here and she's been happy, and Helen checks in on her. So we'll be doing lots of that on the 13th. So Mari, I am
Yes.
aware that you just got back from a lovely vacation. And in
Yes.
that vacation, was it my imagination, or did you stop by the Cathedral of Notre Dame?
I did. We did a lot of traveling all over Europe, and Notre Dame and Sacré-Cœur were two of our stops. Just beautiful
Did
and
you feel the
amazing.
energy?
100%. I mean, honestly, I liked Sacré-Cœur even better than Notre Dame. Notre Dame is huge and beautiful and amazing, but obviously there was a zillion people there. But I don't know, there was something about being in Sacré-Cœur, the energy was like, zzz, and it was amazing. And I, lit candles for loved ones for healing, and it was just really, really beautiful. So if anyone's able to get out to France, to Paris, definitely check that out. It was just very grateful to be able to be there and be in those very special places. So
You
I'm
know,
very
several years ago, I had gone over to England to study physical mediumship, which is what our guest who's coming on is a master at. And at the end of the trip, I was supposed to work at a spiritualist church over there, and it fell through because they thought I was flying out Tuesday, and it turned out I thought I was doing the Sunday service, and they had me signed up for a Monday night, and I was already flying out. So anyway, I said, "Oh heck, I'm going to take the train to Paris because I've never been." And while I was there, I went into Notre Dame, and I didn't think I'd pick up any energy because it was all these tourists and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I sat down and to say, I always like to say a prayer in any type of church I go into. It doesn't need to be a spiritual church or any kind of temple. I love the energy, the religion or the denomination doesn't matter. Well, I was in this cathedral of Notre Dame, and there were tourists all over clicking pictures, and I went into almost immediately into an altered state, and the Mother Mary appeared to me
Mm-hmm.
in this beautiful beam of like light blue light. It was just breathtaking. And I share the story to encourage you guys if, you know, I always like to pop into churches if they're open, and you never know what because usually the energy at a church is respectful, holy, high vibrational. And again, it doesn't matter if it's your church, it's the energy there. And I encourage you guys to take advantage of that. And they're usually free,
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
go
And
in.
hundred
You might like
percent.
to leave a couple dollars, in the
Yeah, of
basket.
course, of
But
course. But, and I was thinking, because I was expecting actually Notre Dame to be really, because, we went to Sacre Coeur first, and that's in Montmartre, and up way up on this hill, beautiful. And it was just vibrating and so much energy, and you could feel so much. And I was honestly expecting Notre Dame to be even bigger. But I think there must have been some altering of something after the fire, because if people don't know, there was a huge fire in Notre Dame. A good chunk of it was burned down, and they did reconstruct it, but I think the energy felt a little bit different because of that. So some of that, I'm not saying it was lost. Obviously, there's still a lot of good, positive, amazing energy in there, but it just felt not the same as I'm sure it did when you went in originally. So a thing that
that's
can
why
happen.
I kind of asked, because I was curious as to, how it felt, because it was just so magnificent. And it shocked me because I just figured it would be kind of, with the all the tourists and stuff. So,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
what are your plans? Do you have any events coming up with Kimberly?
I do have some events coming up, and I know we are, and I wanted to actually talk a little bit about, since we have Kai coming on, about physical mediumship. What is physical mediumship? I know that he's going to talk a lot about that, but maybe we can just give a little brief primer about that, because just for people that are watching and
Sure.
listening, they might want to know, hey, who is this guy that's coming on? So, I have been assured that he is on his way. So appreciate everyone's patience. But yeah, let's talk maybe a little bit about, so what is physical mediumship? How does that differ from regular mediumship?
Okay, so when you use the word mediumship, most people think of mental mediumship, which is cerebral. Well, you feel it. You can also feel it and taste it and such, but it's communication with the spirits on the other side, and but it's through a medium, their vehicle. So they're telling you what they're receiving. Now, physical mediumship is a phenomena. It's the experience is observed by the sitters using their physical faculties. So you see some. Well, if you're in a really dark seance, sometimes you don't really see it, but you could feel it, you can hear it, and everyone in the room hears it. So I happen, as Mari knows, I've been sitting for physical for 10 years or better. Um, and I happen to prefer transfiguration. So we have red lights that we use in the seance room. And when Kai sits, he uses light as well. So you can use your physical eyes to observe the phenomena in his seances. And both Mari and I were fortunate enough to attend one of his seances when he was in Albany a couple of years ago. Um, so it's a rare type of mediumship. Say every 10,000 mental mediums, you might have one physical medium. The accuracy of that statement may or may not be true, but or correct. However, one of the issues with physical mediumship is that it takes continued practice and dedication. Stuart Alexander, who was a renowned physical medium of the last century, like he just retired about 10 years ago. Um, he sat with his brother for 10 years, and they finally said, "This is it, it'll be our last sitting. We're grateful for the time we sat together, but we've had no phenomena." So um, he was going to give up, and that was the night he got phenomena. And then he turned out to be one of the strongest mediums to ever demonstrate. Like people, I've never saw him demonstrate, unfortunately, but people tell me who have seen him that his chair would move across the room, and it just really cool. And he was very reputable. So I got a question from Cindy. Um, do I, so Cindy, I have taught physical mediumship. I've taught it online, basically to give the students an opportunity to learn how to set up their own group at home. Um, and I've taught in person at Lilydale, and when I was one of the teachers where Kai was teaching and demonstrating in Albany. Um, but it's kind of hard to, again, online. We get a lot of what, like EVPs, so you hear them. But what'll happen is when Zoom compresses the data stream, it messes with the phenomena. You can see changes on the face of the medium, um, but it's more like the pixelization. And the thing is, everybody's computer screen has different pixels. So it's not as good as sitting in person. But I do have a group, Shambhala Circle, and we sit twice a month on a Monday night. And as I said, I do a lot of transfiguration, which is where my face changes and you can see the faces of the spirits. I have one of the things, I work with an elf and a fairy. The elementals like the physical energy, as do children. And they elongate my ear and it looks like an elf's ear. And then they make it wave to my sitters. And now I'm not witnessing this. And we do get pictures, but I've never gotten a picture of it waving. And I don't have an infrared camera, so I can't like videotape. But when I was teaching physical in cabinet sitting in Lilydale, two of the students that got in the cabinets to work, um, the ears elongated and they waved to me. And I was like, holy crap, that's what my group is always saying. So that was really cool. Um, and Mari, I mean, you did nice on you have a knack for the precipitated artwork.
The precipitated artwork, yeah, that was really cool. I have done a little bit of physical mediumship and done some demonstrations. Not really my specialty. The precipitated artwork is very cool. Like you wouldn't even think, and forgive me, I can't remember the name of our tutor when we were
Kevin Lee.
taking Kevin Lee, thank you. He's fabulous, amazing. And it's basically like you get a box and you have some paper in it and you can put crayons or colored pencils or whatever, and then you sit with the box. And you can sit with the box, every day for 20 minutes, whatever. And then once you sort of get that energy working, many times people that have sat for a long time, they'll open the box and there'll be a picture on the paper. Like it could be anything, could just be abstract, could be a person. And so when I was sitting with Kevin at his class, I ended up getting some little dots and little, a little bit of movement. This was just my first time doing it. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. And so, to my chagrin, I have not really been practicing and sitting with it, although it is on my long-term list of things to do because I think it's amazing. And if anybody is interested in that, you can definitely reach out to us and we can sort of guide you a little bit more. But it's basically giving the energy to the spirits and giving them the materials to work with and to produce art through you with that energy. And it's really quite astounding, actually. And the other thing I wanted to bring up is that Winter and I were in the same seance with Kai at the Physical Mediumship Conference, and maybe we want to talk a little bit about some of the things we saw. I just remember because I was sitting on the other side of the room as you, and I just remember like this little, like a little ball or like a little piece of fabric. It was like dancing all over the place and it was like touching you. And I was like, it's all over Winter. This little, and I was looking and I'm like, I don't see any strings, like, because there's the part of you that's like, because there are, unfortunately, some people out there that practice this that have been debunked and have been doing things they shouldn't have been doing. Kai is definitely not one of those people. And I kept looking and looking and there was nothing going on. It was just this fabric that was kind of moving all over Winter and that sort of side of the room. And then there
So
was,
it
go
was
ahead,
made
sorry.
out of ectoplasm.
Right,
Yeah, so ectoplasm is a substance that spirit creates. The spirit operators that are working with the physical medium using certain ingredients in the physical medium's body, along with energy that they borrow from the sitters, and they create ectoplasm. Now, ectoplasm can be vaporous, which is what I make, and it can be black or it can be white. And then, as it gets further developed, it gets more solid. It turns into a liquid and then a solid. Kai can make solid ectoplasm. And what he had made that night, his was like a little hanky, and it
right.
did float around, and it came right to me. It was really cool, and that's something else. If you are interested in developing physical phenomena mediumship, first of all, be aware that not every medium can develop it. Um, it's not that one medium is better than the other. It's just that you have to have the biological ingredients in your physical makeup. Okay. However, you got to put the time in because look at Stuart Alexander, one of the greatest mediums of the 20th century. He sat for 10 years religiously with his brother, and nothing happened until the day they were going to give up. Then there's other mediums. Oh God, he was a miner in Wales. Jack, I'm sorry, I've got bad name memory. And he went out when he was in a circle and he just kind of went into an altered state. And they realized Harry Edwards sat with him, and he was a well-known healer. And they have the Harry Edwards Center in England. And he started to develop him, Jack Weber, I'm sorry. And then Jack unfortunately passed away at a young age, probably from working in the mines. So he was somebody that it just happened to, and he was able to develop. A great book for those that are interested in learning about it would be Robin Foy's Pursuit of Physical Mediumship. Robin Foy. He was on the Noah's Ark Society, which was a department or an organization related to the SNU in England that studied physical phenomena mediumship. And then he also sat for it. And he goes through the trials and tribulations he had, because one of the physical phenomena mediumship can be disturbed by the slightest tension in the group. So, like Mari, you've done DEMS, like with large groups. You can get a couple of nay-nayers that happen to be in the audience and still have a wonderful demonstration of mental mediumship because the energy is so high. With physical mediumship, if you get somebody negative in the room, that can just be the apple that tips the cart. So if you're sitting with a group, which is what most physical mediums do, they have a dedicated group that sits with them for the purpose of helping spirit develop that medium as a physical medium. If there's chaos or tension, you're not going to get any phenomena. Which is, when you understand that, it makes what Kai does amazing, because people come into the seance room, and even though, let's say, 18 of them are totally, oh, here he comes, excited to be there, you could have a few, like 2 out of 20, and they're nervous or whatever, or overly skeptical, and it can really throw off the energy. And yet Kai has the energy with him that can just overcome that. We're singing your praises, Kai, having witnessed you in a seance, and I find it amazing how you're able to, you and your team are able to produce the phenomena, even, in public, when you have some very nervous sitters, or, they come in with an attitude of, oh, this is hogwash. And yet you can, because, it's so temperamental, the energy for physical. And you guys are so strong, you guys being you and your team. It's just, I sit for physical, so it baffles my mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's the process. It's the process itself, which is integrating quite quickly the people. They feel it coming from their own blood. Actually, this thing is so old. Everybody of us, if you are skeptical, if you are new, the moment you sit in your seat, something is integrating you very naturally into these processes, and that makes you to the part you shall play, being an energy provider. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know. I only see ladies at the moment.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you so much for coming on. Sorry about the time change keeps messing us up. So
Yeah,
thank you for coming on and being
of
with us.
course.
As you see, we're a little dressed up for the American Halloween that is
Yeah,
going to be
of course.
tomorrow. So
Happy
yeah.
Halloween.
Happy
Yeah.
Halloween, and thank you for being here. So yes, we were talking all about you and your work, and thank you so much for coming on the show. So we would love to talk more about the work that you're doing now, anything that's been coming up in the seances. I know you had a little bit of time off, but pretty much what's been going on. What is interesting now in the world of physical mediumship? Because I know this is your second appearance on Spirit Chat, and thank you for coming back, and so happy to have you here.
Thank you very much. I'd love to be here.
Thank you. So how is there, what's happening now in the world of physical mediumship? It feels like things have been accelerating because of what's going on with the planet.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were always voting for a Western spirituality, which is not solely orientating towards the past. I mean, proving life after death. This thing is going on for a long time, and it is quite interesting. And in grief counselation and in grief therapy and so forth, grief managing, it plays an important role, but we believe that spirituality always have to look into the present and into the future very properly as well. And in regards to that, we are at the moment at a very, very crucial point in time, because we are quite close to the cosmic human being, to the human being that will become a spacefarer in a few decades. And I mean, those people who are addressing these topics a little bit, they are quite knowledgeable about what is discovering, what is coming up since 2017, since the famous New York Times article about the ATIP, Advanced Aerial Threat Investigation Program, respectively, leading us to the point that we have to admit non-human intelligence is already here on Earth. We cannot really say if it is extraterrestrial or if it is a player who is with us on Earth for thousands of years. But I am sure there are implications which are connecting this topic actually with our future role of a space-farer society. And that brings back actually very early days of spiritism. I mean, spiritualism, it came a little bit later. First, it was spiritism. And as we know from the early literature, in the first decades, it was quite common. Cesare Lombroso, a famous Italian writer, in his Spiritistic and Hypnotic Studies, a book from 1888, he is describing quite meticulously how widespread communication with extraterrestrial entities was at that time. So at that time, let's say in the first 30 years, we had not yet had the loss of life that actually turned spiritism into spiritualism, because the world of spirits is much larger than the world of the deceased. And in these first years, people were communicating with all sorts of entities with which they could crisscross on the plane of consciousness, you know? So everything we can actually make contact with, we can actually get into a form of special communication. Let's say if it is the dead, if it is extraterrestrial, or if it is the spirit of a tree, or is the spirits of the winds, or whatever was popular over these times. So communication with extraterrestrials was very widespread, very prominent, and more or less we're closing the circle at the moment, because I believe that when, if not now, it is the right time to reactivate the communication forms with extraterrestrials. And you always need to consider that the phenomenal stages in the seances, they are quite short in comparison to the overall evening of 3 hours, let's say. So there is a lot of time when content is shared through the trans entity. And so there's always a lot of talk about topics. And at the moment, in regards to us, this extraterrestrial topic and our role and the situation regarding this conflict state we are in at the moment on Earth, which is quite inconvenient for that development towards a cosmic human being, towards a spirituality of a future. The extraterrestrials and the spirit entities, yes, they have their concerns, and they are not tiring to inform or let the people know that their role, being metaphysically interested people, that their first interest actually is actually to keep free speech, free thinking, the free spirit, to hold that up here in earthly society, because these are the assets which actually to value or describe the value concerning us human beings, besides our moral and ethical ability and abilities. So this has all come together. Extraterrestrials, the decline of personality in modern society, and that we as metaphysically thinking and experimenting people are actually at the front of keeping these values up.
Awesome.
Sorry, you need to jump in, and you need to to stop me if I.
So I can jump in and just comment that I have a lot of ETs that come through with my transfiguration, my Shambhala group. And in fact, Gary at his seance, Spirit had a precipitated portrait drawn for me. For it was on my birthday, I happened to be at one of his seances, and it's an ET that handles my transfiguration. And it
Super.
was recognized by 6 of my 7 sitters when I sent them the
Oh
picture.
yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
I
Oh
don't
yeah.
recognize them because, I'm in the box.
Of course. Of
Um,
course.
but the 6 out of my 7 sitters was able to recognize it, and it was an ET. And Jen, you've been at my seances, and you've seen the ETs as well. And it's really, I don't think we're the only planet out there of the million planets that has life.
Unthinkable. Creation, of course, is much bigger than us. I mean, yeah, and the work we are doing is actually proving it. I mean, if we have proven life after death, we have proven the existence of these archetypical background which is connecting us with all these entities from the Pleiades over the Zeta Reticulans and all these names and all these locations. They are not popping up by chance. These are actually very, very deep connections, archetypes from which we are stemming. And it is quite interesting to open that chest up and experiment with it actually.
Absolutely. I was at Stonehenge a couple months ago, and I, went into an altar state again with a bunch of tourists. You'd think it wouldn't work. It works, guys, when you're at these wonderful sites. And you don't need to travel there. You can just tune your energy. So don't feel neglected if you can't kind of go there. But we happen to be there, and it was an incredible experience, and it definitely focused on the throat. And I got the impression from Spirit to continue speaking up and strengthening the ability to speak. And that goes for all of you and those of you that watch the recording. Kai, oh, there you are. Don't mute yourself, dear. I'm sorry, Mari, did you want to say something?
No, yeah, that's very true, everything you were talking about, Kai, and I just wanted to see if you could maybe give some examples of these ETs or otherworldly beings that come in and connect with you during your seances for anybody that hasn't been there. Maybe describe a little bit about what you feel, about what other people are telling you, just so people can get a better picture of what's actually happening if they come to one of your seances.
I mean, the strongest entity and the most notorious entities, they are tending to materialize finally, and or eventually, and we had several events when these entities actually were materializing. And from some of these events, we were lucky enough to take photos. So they, from time to time, they come, they materialize and leave long messages for the people. And some of them we did release. You might find them on our channel, on my YouTube channel, TV Beyond by Kai Muegge. And yeah, and they are actually playing the role of a typical spirit guide, which is daring to concern and refer to earthly topics, to manly topics, to societal topics. I know that in the spiritualistic seen that there is a discussion about that. Should that be the case? Shall the guides do address these earthly topics? Because sometimes, yeah, mainly the guests are not awaiting this, and they are coming with an expectation actually that has to be, in their view, purely spiritual. But we have learned that, yeah, the moments when we human beings fail to address very grave societal problems and so forth, then in our case at least, these entities take over and address sometimes very directly problems and topics some people may have not awaited from the topics which are chosen in such a seance, but they are. I mean, that's why they are guides. And if they would not address these things, yeah, I mean, I, I am liking that. I like that, and that is probably one of the reasons that that is happening. So there are specifically during COVID and during the vaccination. I know that vaccination of children was a concern of the spirits, which they were addressing very, very meticulously, and that was for a long time a topic, and that is, of course, problematic. And this whole era, which now lays behind us, and what that has done to our society, we all feel, at least here in Europe, that a lot of things have changed, and these things have somehow changed during this era of COVID, let's say. I mean, it's not necessarily the COVID virus, wherever it might have come from. It is what it has done to society and how the governments have. And I am, of course, more informed what happened here in Europe than what has happened maybe in America. But here in Europe, we actually saw developments happening under this pressure that were quite grave and quite concerning. And it did answer quite some questions to us. I mean, for example, we younger generation, we were always beriddled and bewildered how in earlier times, let's say in Nazi times here in Germany, how the people could so quickly be brought onto line to follow this mindset of the National Socialists, which was their actual description in the National Socialists, and that was how their political party was called. And some of the developments during COVID have shown to us how quickly situations of pressure can actually change dynamics in the society. And that was quite teaching. And we are liking to have the spirit guides comment that and accompany that. We found that quite convenient and eye-opening as well. We were shown spiritual sides of things we had not yet considered at all. And that was quite interesting under strict spiritual law to become explained what might be coming from this or that. So Yeah, so extraterrestrial, they are communicating from the beginning of the circle work on. So from the 90s on, we had a Zeta who was a doorkeeper, who was very influential in which guides was being led through and so forth. And through his participation, we encountered quite more different entities. Some were talking, some were giving messages, some were giving guidelines, some were being photographed. So this is quite a complex and colorful story. And you find the photos, of course, also on our website and on our YouTube page.
Hi, could you just give us the website? I'm going to put it in the chat group.
Yeah, this is kaimuegge.com.
Okay, and the YouTube channel name.
And the YouTube channel name is TV Beyond in one word
Okay.
by Kai Muegge. But I hope with TV Beyond it should be coming up.
I'm putting it in the chat
Yeah, please.
for our watchers and those that are, I know there's a few people that are going to watch the recordings because they just weren't available at this broadcast live time. So I want to put it in the chat so that people can look up your
Of course.
sites.
Fine, thank you.
All these golden nuggets you give us.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's so interesting, Kai, how the ETs and the spirits that are coming through, during COVID and currently, they have almost like advice for us. It's almost like our elders in some way, some mystical spiritual elders coming in and saying, hey guys, this is something you might want to be looking at. I think that's really fascinating and certainly very needed by our world right now. And I'm just curious at this time, aside from that, have they been doing anything else that's different? Have there been different manifestations? Have there things that have been happening to you outside of seance? Because I feel in so many ways that you are a global leader for this type of work.
Kai,
Oh, you're
you've muted
muted.
yourself by mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There you go.
thank you for that question. This is a quite interesting question. My wife and me, we always felt very, very protected. And those of you who are for a longer time in that work, you might be acquainted with that feeling very surely as well. But I have to say that my body always had the tendency to materialize currents of emotions, currents of social states as well. So, for example, we did for a long, long time very intensive healing work, the Felix Circle, in which different mediumships were developed from. Mine was there developing as well, was originally thought to be a healing circle. Basically, it is named after my grandfather, who was a physician, and I thought that would be convenient to have him and to work with him, but that was also not so easy as I thought it to be. But in that healing work already, it started that I recognized this tendency that when I was in intensive healing work, I started to actually materialize or reflect or project, let's say, the the area of problems around the client onto my own body. So my own body was starting to produce at the exact same location where the patient had its problem. I was starting to, yeah, having problems myself up to, oh, I don't know the correct American word for it. So an inflammation, a true and deep inflammation, and so that was the first um, times when I was recognizing this, and the more we fell into these times of societal disorientation and indicating where in the last decades we were lacking actually to shield our society against its corruption. And this is in the end the corruption of the personalities actually, and the social architecture in which we have chosen to live. The more that became apparent, the more my body reacted. And that was on its height actually during COVID. And I was actually, due to this, starting to experience suffering and had to go through specific ordeals I was during all my life not acquainted with. For example, I was never in a hospital. I never had a broken bone. I even had never a cold that was more than a little. So this tendency to materialize these societal currents was quite painful, and we are actually at the moment still dealing with the right way to come come out of it, respectively, to deal rightly with it, to find the right way to address it, and not simply to try to ignore it, but to find the dynamics. And in the end, it has to do with that huge mystery in which we are sticking anyway with the work as mediums that we are doing. So for me, that was quite a new experience. And what was the original question? Excuse me.
No, you were right on there. I was talking about, if there's anything new that was happening, with your work, in terms of, I feel like that you and Julia are like global leaders in this type of work. And I know that, you've had pretty significant dental issues recently. Do you think that was also a manifestation of
Oh
something that
yes,
was going on?
in the end, yes. I mean, it was a wisdom tooth. It was a wisdom tooth extraction. I accepted, even though it had not have to happen, or it had not had to happen. So it was actually a very, very late wisdom tooth that just had come out 10 weeks before or so. But the dentist was eager to rip it out. And I was, and this is what I mean. I was at that moment in time, I mean, I was trusting that man. I was knowing him for quite many years, but I made a wrong decision. And this is not so new for me, to make wrong decisions that have such an outcome. I mean, that led me actually to a life-threatening surgery, a simple wisdom tooth extraction. And so that was not fun. And I look at it as well as as being an implication of yeah, my body and my spirit actually uh, are uh, like in comparison, like in a slightly deranged state, mirroring societal states we are in at the moment. Unfortunately, that is the case, I feel.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I was just gonna say, it's almost like your body was rejecting the idea of what the doctor was bringing forward as a symbol of the rejection of everything that's happening now. Because obviously you're incredibly sensitive and intuitive, and you feel all of these things. And I think Jennifer was talking about that in the chat, that there's many of us that take in all this energy, and sometimes it does not so great things to our physical body. And
Yeah,
that in and of itself can be a manifestation of what's going on around us in our world. Is that correct?
unquestionably. That is basically always the case. But there was always the suspicion that due to my upbringing, there was the tendency maybe to specifically that or have that as a case. And if that is the case, or if actually everybody is experiencing that to a specific degree, uh, I believe you're right. Basically, this is mirroring in every one of us.
Absolutely.
So,
And
Kai, Jennifer, who's listening and is here today, she wants to know, do you have any suggestions for those of us that are sensitive on how to shield from absorbing the energies of others or the atmosphere? Because maybe you're absorbing, the emotional emanations of people that are upset. That could be or as if I know Jem works as a healer, plus just being going to work every day in a non-healing job, being with other people. What would you suggest about shielding?
We have learned from our communicators that the best shield is a proactive shield. Means that, that this is quite a formula, a very handy formula, and it is thinking the truth, speaking the truth, and living the truth. And this is actually something that shapes your body and shapes your spirit in a way that actually should shield you quite quite well against negative influences. Of course, if you are specifically sensitive, we needed to look into the specificity in which you are sensitive, and maybe there are then, there are these typical tools which we can use, from visualizations to affirmations and so forth. But I believe the truth, this speaking the truth, specifically today, when actually all these visions from decades ago turn into the contrary, and actually turn our society into something that might have these negative effects onto specifically the sensitive. It is very important that we hold on to the truth and do not hide or tend to hide or something like that, but where we can speak the truth. And this is, of course, only the start, but in Europe, it is the case that the people do not dare even to speak out the truth, because they are afraid that they are being called names in the following. So, so that's why the spirits are very sensitive here as well, and they start. It all begins with thinking and speaking the truth. This is shaping the mind. This is shaping the spirits, and even in the end, shaping the body as well. as a basic truth to this question.
Absolutely.
Everything else might be might be more personal. We needed to look into on which channel there is a specific sensitivity, and many people have specific topics in from which they feel to be attacked. Might be said too much, but you might know what I mean. And there are then for sure. I mean, I am in that we did the healing work on the one side, which was more addressing typical physiology related things, maybe, but we were doing spirit rescue as well for more than 2 decades. And if I have learned something, then actually that every case is different from the other, and that there are nearly no general king's ways to actually address everybody's problem or everybody's channel or path of sensitivity. So one really has to take the time then and look into the personal belongings and what might be here the best for the person oneself. I'm sorry that I have no receipt here for.
No,
it's
perfectly
fine.
Yeah, we're all, everyone's unique. So what works for me may not work for Mari.
Absolutely.
And, Jen, take the advice, and then I would also say wrap yourself in divine love every morning. And then if you feel yourself being altered, or taking on energy because you're sensitive, just wrap yourself in divine love. Divine love would be of the highest vibration, so it should shield against lower vibes. I mean, I was walking out of a Rotary meeting one day after, and the former president was a drunkard and he drank. And I was walking behind him, and he was, we're both going to the parking lot, and he was very highly emotional. And he's letting out these little emotional poltergeist type things. I was, I'm just walking to go back to my office, and one of them like stuck to me, and I was like, oh. And I realized, you could just be in the grocery store, a Rotary meeting, which, by the way, Rotary does fabulous good. I got more orbs from Rotary events when I used to take pictures, and they do such wonderful, kind humanitarian acts. So these are really good people, but people are people. So
my grandfather was a Rotary as well, by the way. Yeah.
Your grandfather?
Yes.
Yeah, they was started by an attorney in Chicago. I love the humanitarian work. I used to do the program with that did heart surgeries for impoverished children. So anyway, I like to just put the divine light wrapped around me in my aura if I find myself,
Yeah, this is what I meant.
And you just have to trust that it works. Because the other thing is, if you doubt it, you can actually prevent it from working. So, and like Kai's advice is spot on. If you're going to, but I know you, sweetheart, and you're very genuine in your thinking, and you walk your walk and you talk your talk. That's important, because if you're false or gossipy or this or that, that's going to lower your vibration, allow the law of attraction to suck it on in, versus keeping yourself at a higher. That doesn't mean you won't have the occasional, I can't believe this person did that, but that's, part of being human. But anyway, so I'm so excited you're here, Kai. Could you tell our viewers, because so many haven't actually had the privilege of witnessing a physical phenomena seance, or your seances in particular, Could you explain some of the phenomena that occurs in addition to this wonderful guidance that's received? And I've said the best mental mediumship I've seen is by a medium in trance at a physical seance. So, I
Oh,
mean, as
yeah.
far as evidential information,
Mhm.
but
Oh, yes, of course. I
oh,
would like to.
please.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we need to learn to accept, which is in my case not a problem where this is actually coming from, because that's interesting to understand. I mean, to call the higher forces of life and of spirit, this is a purely human thing. From the moment we communicated, we were communicating with these higher forces as well, and we were looking for ways and forms, ritualistic and ceremonial ways and forms, to actually become able to address these powers from our location, because many times that was the experience, that the spirits were coming over us and their influence was coming over us, but to reach them was in the beginning always quite difficult. So from the beginning on, this communication with higher forces was taking place, and when new societies were building and developing, like the Western Hemisphere society, that was actually quite guided by the American settlers. With the settlers, that was the new time, and the new materialistic and modern first world society actually was becoming. And this society actually felt not um, quite satisfied anymore by what the churches were actually offering. And so they were starting, having become the root for everything that developed then in the Western Hemisphere. They were starting to find a new form of spiritual movement, and they did, and it was spirit communication as the basic, as a basic, and from then on, from America on, it shadowed onto Europe. And in America and in Europe, different traditions of that new first world, Western Hemisphere tradition were developing. It was this very ancient tradition of actually calling higher forces and asking all different topics. I mean, in front of every belief system, people were addressing higher forces and were talking to the spirits. So in America, it was developing a little bit different than in Europe. And in Europe as well, there was quite um, different ways in which the people were addressing it. For example, in England, it became a belief system. In the first place, spiritualism as the belief system of I believe in life after death, and I use Spiritism and the mediums that work in Spiritism. I use that to prove to me, or to whoever, that life after death is existing. So in England, this question always was very, very prominent. And there were other countries in which that was not so prominent. They were actually trying to avoid the system in the first place, because in the first place, they wanted to more see what the essence of it was. And after the essence was being found, then belief systems should be convenient to build around, but they were moving towards it more experimentally, and these were the Germans. The Germans were very influential, specifically because their influence until the Second World War, of course, and until the Nazis overtake. The Germans were very influential in Europe in regards to their ingenuity and in the engineering and so forth, and in regards to the inventions they did. So they had a very pragmatical name, and with that pragmatism they were actually addressing spiritism and the experimentation around it as well. So I am being educated in that specific German tradition, and this specific German tradition is actually shadowing onto what is going on in the Seansu and how it is dealt with. For example, in German tradition, the medium, in case of darkness phenomena, the medium is never being bound with a cable or with whatnot. It is being held. There is always an independent person which is all the time during the phenomena in contact with the medium. And this is, of course, therefore, because we have learned that spirit entities, or that the process, if you want, that the process is capable of actually matter through matter. And that means that the bindings through cable or whatever material might be not securing in a thinkable way the medium from getting up from the chair and actually transfiguring, believing to be the spirit itself. So that can lead to misunderstandings, grave misunderstandings, and the Germans wanted to avoid that from the start. So this is only an example. The medium is not allowed to sit alone in the cabinet. It always has to sit with the sitters, is part of the power pool itself, because the original power pool is due to the ancient American Indian origin, the basis of it all, with the sitters and with the present of the sitters. This is all actually functioning. It is a group ceremony from the start, and this is what I was wanting to refer to. It is an ancient tradition, but there was a direct intercultural transfer when actually the first mediums were around 1850 and 1860 coming up. And this is not very well known, but actually it is the case, and there is a whole guild of anthropologists who were very knowledgeable in the Northern American Indian ceremony belongings and how that transferred content-wise, phenomena by phenomena. It was years later rediscovered in the seances of the early mediums. And if we think about it, this is quite logical. The people had not a high educational standard. They did not know of trance culture wherever on this beautiful earth, but what many of these families where the first mediums were coming from were knowing. These were experiences that actually were very influential and had a strong impact on everybody in the family. Because these were the stories when the whites were experiencing Northern American Indian medicine men or medicine activity. And that was usually the case when the people were falling sick. The doctor could not help anymore. A lot of rights ended in the hands of medicine men and medicine women. And what they then experienced there was had a very strong impact. And that was actually the role model, or were the role models these first mediums were looking for. The life realm, let's say, they were connecting with Northern American Indian famous medicine men. Until today, many American Indians still nurture this tradition to have a spirit guide of a Northern American Indian origin, right? That is quite.
Kai, my spirit control for my circle is a German physician from about Dr. Schnell.
That's
So,
nice. Oh, okay.
yeah, so, and no Specken Sie Deutsch.
Yeah, yeah, of course. So exceptions, but I'm sure you do know what I mean. That
Yeah,
Northern American,
absolutely.
yeah, it is.
They've popped in once in a while. I live in an area that used to be inhabited by
I see.
Indians. In fact, I sent we have Indian paint rocks and things like that, and I sent them
Oh yeah,
back to
oh
England
yeah,
and stuff.
yeah.
But listen, we do have a quick question, a very important question
Oh
from
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Cindy. She wants to know, are you aware of any dates you're going to be coming back to the US to teach and work?
Please.
Yeah,
Oh,
just
you're
at the
muted again.
just at the moment to do that, and that will be for sure. Start around Lilydale at TUME at the house of Dr. Neil Rapskowski, like we did that before.
Mhm.
And we are just at the moment, yeah, trying to develop a little a mini schedule, actually to be at 2 or 3 places. Otherwise, that all that stress and the flying and the accommodation, it is all quite stressy. So we would love to reach, if we do that step, we would love to reach some people, of course, then. So we need to find, or need to find out if there is enough interest, and if there is enough interest, you never know. We will hopefully realize that. We are just at the moment, we just few or 3 days ago, we had the first talks about that.
Okay,
What
cool.
about at
I
your
know Neil's
place?
on a cruise. That would be great. So you're going to cut like during the session at Lilydale?
Yeah, at TUME, definitely, of course. Yeah.
All right, are
Oh,
you
that
keep my
sounds.
eye on that? Because maybe I can kind of wiggle in teaching. But so I'm up there when you're there.
Yeah,
Or
oh,
maybe
yeah,
he
of
could come
course.
to your place, Winter.
Yeah, I can't black out my office. That's my problem. I sit with the red light, and I we don't sit in complete darkness. So I think Kai needs blackout conditions to start at least. So my
More
problem is
or
I can't
less,
get,
yeah,
I
more or
have a
less.
storefront office. I've had a few mediums in, but I can't get the blackout conditions. It just doesn't work. Plus the fact that, like I announced, I'm adopting, so I'm on standby. I've been all approved, so I'm on standby if I'm going over to Portugal for a month to,
Oh,
matched with the child.
Wow.
But anyway, we kind of went over a little bit, but it's always so interesting. Mari, you were mentioning it would be lovely if we could get Kai back in the future if we had some photos that we could share. I had thought of that in the beginning before Kai got here. Um, I have one of him on because I do a program to teach about what physical mediumship is. So I do show a picture of you, Kai, and mention you as world renowned and
thank you.
wonderful teacher. And but maybe we can get some photos for next time, because I think it might help some of our listeners. This is very new information. They may not be familiar with physical mediumship.
Yeah, yeah, and I need to apologize. I always address this topic from a very, very wide angle. I know that you actually asked more specifically what is going on into a séance, and I start with the with the
You give
basic.
what your spirit wants you, inspires
Yeah,
you to give. So we're grateful.
so
But yeah, so if that would be cool. Um,
And
to get a few photos or what are you asking for?
we're hoping that if we could get you back a third time in the future, that we could show some photos of you that
Oh yeah, of course, of course,
and
of
your work,
course.
because you mentioned that you've been able to get some pictures, which tell
Yeah,
you guys
yeah.
that you're listening. It is so hard to get photos of the
Yes.
phenomena, especially if you're in darkened conditions and if it's energy burst based versus ectoplasmic based. So to have them is really great to share them.
Yes, and with these photos, we are actually forced to stay directly at the topic physical phenomena and physical seances. And I really have amazing photos over these last more than 30 years. We could photograph quite some interesting things. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. We do that. We plan another round.
Awesome.
yeah,
Thank you
that would be, yeah,
so much.
awesome. And I just had a quick question. Sorry to interrupt you, Winter. Kai, do you work with people individually? Like I know Jen was talking about her energy, and is that something that you do? Do you take on individual clients or not at this time?
Yeah, did that for a very, very long time, and we always had to decide because the requests in regards to that were every time quite overwhelming number
Yeah.
related, and it was so difficult in the end actually to choose who is the right one to receive that, that we tried to actually for this basic form of curing and helping energy to spread this in the cells basically anyway. The cells and its energy is basically interconnected with these healing energies because these
Mm.
original traditions and the original cultures um, connect that spirit work directly with healing. So this is always swinging and vibing in the background. But we did that for a long, long time, and we learned and experienced truly interesting things. This is also interesting to talk about someone in time because these were very very teaching insights into very complex uh, interconnections that take place, and we are not aware usually about these things. So we did that, but not at the moment.
Okay,
Okay.
that's good to know. And maybe next time we have you on, you can get more into that about the things that you learned working with individuals as opposed to the seance. But I can say personally, having been in your seance room, it is very healing. If anybody is around, if Kai goes to Lilydale, absolutely try to go. It's amazing. It will blow your mind. And we are just grateful to have you here. Thank you so much. You are like the
Thank you so
master
much.
of
Very
this
kind.
topic.
Thank you.
No, no, you're amazing, and
Yeah.
you know we're all big fans, and
Thank you.
just grateful that you would be here on our little show. And
Of
thank you,
course, of course.
thank you so much for coming on. And Winter, do we want to talk about our next show just briefly? I know we're heinously
Yeah,
over
and
time,
then
but
yeah, because I gotta run. November 13th at 3 p.m. It's just going to be Mari and I, and we're going to talk about our beloved pets. And Kai, I know you love my orange cat, so I made sure he was here before we leave.
Oh yeah.
Love this guy.
Hey, hey, hey. Oh,
So we're gonna, on our next
actually,
show, we're gonna focus on pets, both here and in the afterlife. And however, we'll be doing messages. So of course, if your grandma comes in, we're gonna do grandma or any other loved one. But we're gonna talk about pets and the connections we have, the lessons we learn from them, how spirit uses them to bring through messages and teachings as well. And then December 1st, we have a show scheduled before I sneak out to Egypt, and I'll bring back some Egyptian woo-woo for you guys and share. But we're going to decide on the topic for that, and we'll let you know in November.
Yes, and thank you everybody for joining us on our pre-Halloween special with the most amazing Kai Muegge, physical medium extraordinaire from Germany. Thank you, thank you, thank you for coming on. It's been amazing as always. Like I said, this is going to be live streamed on iHeartRadio, and iTunes, and Apple, and all those places. So that will be coming up probably in the next week or so. I will get it on. And just thank you so much for coming on. I hope this was helpful to everybody. If anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to me at mediummari.com. Winter, your email is your website?
Winterbrookmedium.com, or if you want to drop me an email, winterbrookpsychicmedium@gmail.com.
And it looks like Kai's website is kaimuegge.com, which is KAIMUEGGE.com for all of our listeners on iTunes and everywhere else. Thank you for tuning into Spirit Chat. It's been such a blessing. Thank you, Kai. Thank you, Winter.
thank you
and
very
we
much.
will-
Very much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank
Happy
you for having me.
Halloween,
Fabulous.
everyone. Don't
you.
forget
Happy
to open those
Halloween.
doors and give
That's
those
right.
treats out to the little ones. That's what I'll be
Thank
doing
you.
tomorrow night.
We'll see you soon.
God bless.
Take care. Bye.
Bye
Thank you,
bye. Good
Kai.
night.